So I've just been listening to the wonderful Gemma Fletcher's Business Unzipped podcast. The latest session is out today, where she is doing a reflection on what she's learned so far on, I think, 6 weeks of episodes. So today is entitled, Are We Still in a Man's World? And one of the tips that she wanted to impart at the end, sorry for spoiling, but listen anyway, was around self-promotion. And she quoted me as being really good at self-promotion. And part of me went, oh, well done me. And the other part of me went, really? I wouldn't say I was good at self-promotion. And so I've been reflecting for the last few minutes. And I've made some notes about what I think really self-promotion is about. I think when we hear, oh, she's really good at self-promotion, certainly my gut reflex is to go, oh, she just talks about herself all the time and how great she is. I don't think that's what I do. You might disagree. What I think I do well is, and it comes down to really who I am and how I show up generally, and it just casts its sunshine on the fact that sometimes I need to sell myself. It's about clarity of the value that I bring. So if ever I have an introductory conversation with someone, I don't generally like to go first, because I like to introduce myself in the light of what they just said. Whenever I give a talk, I don't like to be too prepared. I absolutely never rehearse, because what I do is I look out at the room. I might even ask a couple of open-ended questions, so I know that what I say is going to apply to what they need. And so just that style of operating, which I know would send a terror into some people, but for me it's just, it probably plays to my insecurity of the fact that I don't like to feel like I haven't added value. And so that clarity about the value you bring vocalized, that I think is something that I do really well. The other thing that I think takes away the of self-promotion is show, don't tell. So I kind of just said this in the last point, that, you know, there's no point really saying I'm really good at this if none of your behavior demonstrates that you're really good at that thing. So I know that I speak clearly. It is a deliberate strategy on my part. And actually, it wasn't born from a need to sell myself. It was born when I used to work with a lot of non-English speakers, and I had feedback that I spoke too quickly, and I deliberately slowed down because I never wanted to leave anyone in my French, Spanish, Italian, whatever team behind. I wanted them to understand me at all times and have space to interrupt me and ask questions. So again, clarity, partially from the pace at which I'm speaking. I think if you're speaking slower, you probably exude more confidence. You possibly use fewer fillers. I'm not aware that I've used any fillers so far. Like, you know, kind of, and I do that sometimes, but I'm deliberately not doing that today, which means I can not do it. The other thing I do is I help people to join the dots. So if they're confused about something, I help them make sense of that thing. It's a personality thing that I am aware that I do. It's possibly, again, born from working in certain companies with certain individuals that used to talk a lot but not say very much. You know those people? And I'd listen and I'd listen and I'd listen, and then I'd go, so basically this. And they go, yes! And somehow they didn't feel bad about the fact that I'd had to listen for 18 minutes in order to extract that 1 minute or 10-second summary. But also, that's good, right? That I'm not putting people down in that, but I'm adding value by making things concise, easy to understand, succinct. It's one of my favourite words. But I also think it's sharing self-knowledge. I mean, it's quite ironic that I'm working my way through this list and I'm doing what I'm teaching as I go along. But this is sort of the point, right? Show, don't tell. So my next point was sharing self-knowledge. I'm sharing with you how I've come up with these things. They're not accidental. They're not equally deliberate for the purpose of selling myself. They're just characteristics, traits that I've developed over the years, or that I have revealed over the years, as something that brings power, pace to projects that are flagging, clarity when people feel confused. And I like to do it because I feel like I am progressing, and progress is really important to me. So the couple of things then, the sort of concluding 2 points, which are more obviously related to self-promotion. Why do we need to self-promote? It's because we want to raise our profile. We want to get that promotion. We want to get that pay rise. We want to get that job. We want to get that speaking gig. We want to get that coaching client. At no point, I don't think, have I ever got a speaking gig or a coaching client. Definitely not a coaching client because I have sold myself. It's always been because of the things that I've just described, and people either click with me or they are repelled by me. Believe it or not, people are sometimes, and that's good. And so that brings me to my last point before my penultimate point, which is don't say yes to things that don't feel good. You know, when I have a client or a potential client that says they want to work with me and I'm not really feeling it, I don't make them an offer. Or sometimes, maybe I shouldn't do this, but sometimes I'll tell them why I don't think that we're a good fit. And sometimes that upsets them, but I kind of know deep down that will serve, well, no, I hope and I intend that will serve them at some point. It will teach them that they shouldn't just buy me because I'm the best, or I've been recommended, or I'm reassuringly expensive, or any of those things. They should hire me because they believe that together we will get to the place that they want to get to faster and more joyfully, because I'm a bit funny. But if they're not feeling that energy, normally in the first 9 minutes, then they shouldn't hire me, and we shouldn't waste any more time talking to each other. But what I would do is help them, like I'm helping you now, to find the coach that is a better fit for them. But from another of Jem Fletcher's episodes with Mark Fletcher, who has just basically said the same thing, that you need to look in the mirror and know who you are in order to sell yourself effectively. So if you're lacking in confidence, you might need to work with someone like me to help you see what you already have and package it up in a way that you feel comfortable to market and people that you're right for want to buy. And so my last point then is asking for what you're worth. I am not a cheap coach. Why? Because, well, I've got 20 years experience. That should tick one box. I've invested a lot of money in myself, but this is really not even about the justification of why I charge the rates I charge. The way I like to put it is that you can go to dance classes all your life. You can learn steps by rote. You could churn out a salsa dance, but if you haven't got any rhythm, it's not going to be that enjoyable, and it certainly isn't going to be appealing to watch. So what I have is rhythm, and that's what I'm pricing. I know for the person that's right for me, I will help them transform completely, relatively quickly. And they will do it without tears, without drudging around their past unnecessarily like therapy, but just by getting clear on what they want, what's been stopping them, the value that they bring, how to market that to the world, and work out what in their life doesn't really bring them any warmth, you know. And if you can do that repeatedly, iteratively throughout your life, I think that's a winning strategy. So in terms of asking for what you're worth, that's an experiment. You need to test out where you feel comfortable pitching yourself, either at role level or salary level or rate level, if you're independent. But what's been particularly useful for me is choosing language that I can use that doesn't trigger me into any sort of negative emotion, and helps me to feel unemotional about saying, we connect, I can get you the results that you want, here is the price. Emotionally though, when you're inexperienced, you go, well, I think I can help. Oh, well, do you know if you want that? And oh God, here's the price. When you start out on a coaching journey, probably in any selling business where you are the brand, you probably start there. So don't feel bad if you are cringe about talking about money. You need to experiment with price points where that feels good. And then you will outgrow that price point, and then you will pitch it a bit higher and do that thing again. So I repeat, all of this should be iterative. This is not about being fixed. At some point, I will feel like I'm playing too small. It comes in cycles, and then I will readjust on all of the things that I've just described and repitch myself again until I feel comfortable for that moment, and then I go again. So in summary, I think I am clear about the value that I bring, and I vocalize it. I tend to show people rather than tell them. Sometimes I tell them because I'm helping them join the dots, but other times I'll just demonstrate. Sharing self-knowledge, showing the journey that I'm on and that I continue to be on, and helping with videos like this where there's illumination that's gone on that I can share with other people. Asking for, I didn't actually say this one, asking for opportunities. When you see an opportunity to get involved in something, ask. Raise your hand, go first, get yourself on the radar. And that doesn't mean responding to a formal job advert. That means if you're in an environment and you say, God, I'd love to do this, or, oh, I saw that you did such and such a thing, I'd love to do something like that. How did you do that? And asking and being curious and finding a way that you can open a door long before an advert ever comes out. So asking for opportunities, and then asking for what you're worth, and not saying yes to something unless it feels good. So money is out the window. This is a joy meter. This is you not asking your head to make a decision, but really trusting your gut and looking into your heart and going, will this bring me joy? Anyway, this was all born out of listening to Jem Fletcher's 2 podcast episodes today, one with Mark Fletcher and one on her own, where she's talking about whether this is still a man's world. Both worth a watch. Business Unzipped podcast on Spotify, and I'm guessing all other channels too. Have a great day.